So we just had a message come through about knowing the difference between somebody that's interested in you and somebody that's interested in having people interested. And it reminded me of the false twin back in the day, back when I was first starting to work out 2 years ago. It was close to 2 years. I think it was like June 2023. I think so. Anyway, there was this guy, the false twin, who liked being wanted. That's what he was after at the end of the day. He liked being wanted, but he would never really reciprocate fully. He would do just enough to keep you on the hook. And then he would twist it around to make it look like you were crazy. And then you'd pull away, and then he'd get closer again, go out of his way to get you back on the line, and so on and so forth. It went in that cycle. And then when you pulled away, he would lash out. When you stopped feeding him, he would lash out at you. Typical narcissist. He even copped to being jealous of the attention that I got, because he wanted it to be him, you know? And that's the energy that the reading I just saw reminded me of. And the guy that asked me to marry him pretty immediately last year, like literally we'd been talking for a little while, and then he wanted to get married for a couple different reasons. Some of it was logistical, some of it was intense energy. But I don't think that it was genuine. I think that it was pragmatic. And I recognized that pretty immediately, and I was like, I don't think this is happening for the right reasons. Let's maybe look at the whys here. And he said that took the magic out of it. And I was like, okay, all right, that's okay. And then after a couple weeks of not talking to each other anymore, he wanted to reconcile. He was like, hey, I think we should give it another shot. I don't know what happened. I don't know what the miscommunication was, but I feel like we should just go for it. I'm like, okay. So let's work on consistency. Let's just work on consistent communication. And immediately that fell apart again. And I saw him on the dating apps, talking to other guys and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, I stayed off of the apps for a month because I wanted to give this a shot, right? I said we were gonna do this. And that was the boundary, that we had loyalty, that it was some kind of commitment here. And he said that he waited as long as he could. And that it just, he thought I wasn't interested anymore because I wasn't chasing him. And at that point, I'm like, okay. So he's gaslighting, he's flipping it around. And then he said that he just wanted to be wanted. And that's why he was talking to those other guys. And I was like, this is exactly that same energy. This is exactly that same energy. And I've been wary of people that just want to be wanted, that just want to feel desired or desirable. And that is the basis of their interactions, because in those people, the person that they're engaging with doesn't even have to be attractive to them. It could be literally anyone. And if they're receiving energy from that person, they're going to keep them on the line. They're going to be engaged to a degree where they have plausible deniability, but they're still engaging in eye contact, in behavior, in whatever nonverbal, non-committed ways that keep the energy flowing. Because as long as they are receiving that energy of longing and intensity and emotion from the other person, they're going to keep that up. And sometimes they can't even help themselves. Sometimes they can't even stop themselves from engaging in that. And so you'll wind up with this one person in a committed relationship with 2 kids that consistently always has some unspoken connection happening with 1 to 4 people at a time, because that keeps them alive, that keeps them invigorated, that keeps them feeling desirable. And if they aren't having that energy validated by another person, then their self-worth comes into question. Do I still got it? Like that kind of energy. And Spirit has, since the twin flame, guided me to a bunch of people that wanted the attention. And when you stop giving it to them, they try and hurt you in one of 100 different ways. Or they try and flip it around and gaslight you, one or the other. And the reading that I just saw made me wonder if this is another one of the same. But this is part of the test. This is part of the 8 of Swords energy here. Because it could be. But I don't live in fear of that. I don't live in fear that someone's going to treat me badly again. I don't live in fear that this is going to be another one of those situations. I live in my knowing. What I know is that I can recognize those signs, that I have seen it enough times that I can tell what somebody's motivation is. I can tell when something's feeding their ego. I can tell when that's all that they're after. And when I find out that's the situation, I step away. And I have done that so many times over the last year alone, much less the last 2. And at this point, I can do that without it causing any kind of emotional upset for me. Because when I see somebody's after me for the wrong reasons, or somebody just wants attention and they're willing to get that attention from anybody, it stops being desirable for me instantly. I am no longer attracted to that. I no longer feel like I need to fight to prove my worth to that person. I no longer feel like I need to... I'm getting that Taylor Swift song, "You Belong With Me." I no longer feel like I'm sitting there on the bleachers watching them and waiting for them to come around. I'm never going to do that again. Because I will fight for my connection. I will absolutely fight for my connection, but I won't fight you for our connection. I won't battle you for your attention. I won't compete with other people that you are entertaining for your affection or your loyalty or your dedication. Because that's a choice you make. And personally, I don't want to believe that this is how my next person, the person that I'm thinking about right now, operates. I don't want to believe that's the case. But not wanting to believe it doesn't mean that I won't be able to recognize it, if that's true. And this is discernment. This is you seeing something in a reading that could potentially apply to your situation, and then using pattern recognition, past experiences, and actual evidence based on what you were able to glean from the other person in order to determine their motivations and intentions. And until I see something in his patterns that points to that behavior, I'm not going to assume that's true. And I think maybe somebody had to understand that they can't just take it at their word, at the reader's word. You have to look for it yourself.